So we understood that in SAP ECC, we have these challenges, like we have the problem with the speed, the user interface, reconciliation, and we need to invest a lot of amount on the hardware, okay, because SAP was only available on premise when it comes to SAP ECC till 2011. Now with SAP S4 HANA, okay, the speed is no more a problem because of SAP HANA database. With SAP HANA database, the speed problem would be solved. With SAP Fiori, user interface problem will be solved. With simplified processes, reconciliation issue will be solved. And with cloud option, the problem that was related to the hardware cost will also get resolved. So in short, SAP S4 HANA provides you speed, it provides you better user interface, it provides you simplified processes, and it also provides you the option to go on cloud. Okay, and then we understood this SAP HANA in detail. Okay, so within SAP HANA, we discussed why SAP HANA is fast. The reason is it provides or it stores the data directly in RAM. Okay, so this is in-memory computing, which means storing the data directly in RAM rather than hard disk. And second is it stores the data in the column-based form. Okay, and when it stores the data in the column-based form, there can be any number of columns in the table and it will not affect the performance of that table when it comes to reporting. And on top of that, the another benefit of column-based data storage was compression. Okay, which means the data is not only stored in the column-based data, but the compressed data. Like for example, out of 10 GB of data, it compresses in a way and it only stores 2 or 3 GB of the data. So around 20 to 30% of the data. Okay, and so these are at the higher level benefits of HANA database, column-based and in-memory computing. Okay, so we will go through those same slides which we started yesterday, and we will see if whatever missing slides are there related to HANA, we will continue from that. Okay, so I'll just go little bit quickly on these things which we already discussed. So this one I don't need to explain again. We already know this. This is something which we just now discussed. The problems which are related to IT, like big data, Internet of Things, multiple server maintenance, and we had the ETL system, and obviously the huge hardware cost. From the business point of view, we had the complex user interface, the transaction processing was very slow, reportings were also slow, reports were outdated because most of the reports were not available directly on the main system. We were moving the data from ECC to BW, and in BW the reports were outdated, right? Because you are not moving the data from ECC to BW on a regular basis. In the real-time basis, it is only once in a week, once in a month. So whatever reports you are getting, the analytical reports, those are outdated. And obviously, there was a problem with the reconciliation. Okay, and then we discussed SAP S4 HANA. So maybe yesterday we have not discussed this slide in detail. I told you first we will talk about what is SAP HANA, and then we will come back to the slides. Now let's try to understand this slide completely. So first of all, I think we are now clear on the difference between SAP HANA and SAP S4 HANA. SAP HANA is a database and SAP S4 HANA is an application which is built up on HANA database, right? And that is the reason if you see this full form of SAP S4 HANA, it is SAP Business Suite for SAP HANA. This for is very important. Okay, so what for you are able to see, this for is nothing but for. Okay, and at the same time, sometimes even SAP call it as for fourth generation, which means like the new generation requirements which are coming into the picture now. Okay, but just remember this for SAP HANA, because I'll tell you again, there is a lot of confusion in the market when it comes to the full form of SAP S4 HANA, and there is a confusion between different SAP products. Okay, so in the next slide, I'll explain you what exactly I mean. But just remember, SAP S4 HANA stands for SAP Business Suite for SAP HANA. Okay, and it is a new product. I'm in line number 2. It is a new product and a next generation of business applications. Okay, so why we are calling it as a new product? Why we are not saying this is a new version? So I think I gave you the example yesterday. It is not just EHP 5 to EHP 6. When it is EHP 5 to EHP 6, we can call it as a new version. Okay, that is a version upgrade. But this is a completely new product because if you look at the backend, it has been replaced with traditional databases to SAP HANA database. When we talk about the front end, it has been replaced by the older screens with SAP Fiori screens. So everything has been simplified, everything has been changed, and that is the reason SAP is saying that this is not just a new version, this is a completely new product. Okay, and obviously it is the next generation of business applications because the next generation is asking for these requirements. Next generation wants to do all their transactions on mobile devices. They are not ready to wait for the reports to be executed in hours, right? So this is a new generation requirement based on which SAP has developed this product. It is third line, fully built upon in-memory platform SAP HANA. Okay, so I told you yesterday it is not possible that you are using SAP S4 HANA application on any third-party database. That is not possible at all, right? SAP S4 HANA will work only on SAP HANA database. Okay, that is the whole idea of SAP S4 HANA. The name itself is saying that it is developed for SAP HANA. So it is built up on in-memory platform, which means the data is directly stored in RAM. Fourth point, it provides an instant insight by using a single source of truth, dynamic planning and analysis. Okay, so what are these points now? What is single source of truth? What is dynamic planning and analysis? And what is real-time processes? Okay, so let's talk about these three things one by one. So provides an instant insight by using a single source of truth. What do you mean by single source of truth? So just now we discussed that in SAP ECC there was a reconciliation issue. Okay, now why there was a reconciliation issue? Because FI and CO were two different components. FI had different tables, CO had different tables. So at the month end, FI tables are showing some other results, CO tables are showing some different results. Now both cannot be true, right? Either FI is showing you correct picture, CO is wrong, or CO is giving you correct picture, FI is wrong. So you need to find out what is truth, because there were two different sources of data. But now when FI CO are merged together, there is only one table which is holding FI data as well as CO data. So that table is called a single source of truth, because you don't need to find out what is truth and what is false. Everything, whatever is available in that table is a truth. So now there is no question of FI is truth or CO is truth. There is only one place where FI and CO will be stored, and that table is called a single source of truth. So that is nothing but AC docket table, which is also called as universal journal table. Okay. Second one, real-time processes. What do you mean by real-time processes now? So again, just now I gave you the example. Earlier we were using outdated reports because in SAP ECC we were not able to generate the graphical reports. Okay, if you want pie charts, if you want bar charts, those kind of things were not available in ECC. It was only possible you move the data from ECC to BW, and in BW and BI you perform those reportings. Okay, so again, those were outdated reports. So now how they become real time now? In SAP S4 HANA, there is something called as embedded BW. Embedded BW. What do you mean by embedded BW? Embedded BW means there are some features of BW which are directly available in the core system. So you don't need to move the data from ECC to BW. In the same ECC or in the same core system of S4 HANA, you can see the graphical reports, pie charts, everything available at a single place. Okay, so because of this embedded analytics, it is also called as embedded analytics, you are actually able to generate your BW reports directly in the main system, which is real time. Because earlier BW was a separate system, ECC was a separate system. Now ECC and embedded BW both are available in one single box of S4 HANA. So your transactions are also done in the same system and reporting is also carried out in the same system. So that is nothing but real-time processes. Third one is dynamic planning and analysis. Now when I'm explaining you SAP S4 HANA as a whole, so today's session, yesterday's session, or maybe even another two sessions, I'm not thinking only about FI or CO. I'm thinking about entire S4 HANA product. Okay, so when it comes to SAP ECC, can you just tell me what are the different kind of plannings that we do? Overall, I'm not asking about FI. Okay, if you remember about FI, can you just tell me what are the different kind of plannings we do in SAP system?
Cost center planning, profit center plannings,
Okay,
and WBS elements plannings like
okay. Any planning which we don't do directly in
B,
ECC, we are
BPC planning.
BPC, right? So
Yes,
BPC is a separate component, right?
yes, yes.
So yes, so why we need BPC separately? Again, the same thing. If we include that planning and consolidation module within the core system itself, the performance was already slower, it will again become slower. And that is the reason SAP came up with a BPC component separately. Okay, so instead of uh, having the planning functionality directly in your core system, we were using BPC as a separate system. But now again, there is something called as embedded BPC. Okay, so you must be aware of the terminology IBP, integrated business planning. So what is integrated business planning? It is subset of BPC. Okay, so the planning functionalities which were available in BPC, now they are directly available in the core component as IBP, which means even your planning and analysis will be happening on the single system. Earlier, your planning was happening in BPC system and your actuals were happening in ECC system. So you again need to move the data from ECC to BPC. Now even that is not required because everything will be available in one common system. So in short, with SAP S4 HANA, you have a single source of truth, which means one single table which is giving you complete picture. You have embedded BW, which means you don't need to go out for graphical reports. You can generate the graphical reports within the core system itself. And even if you want to perform the advanced planning, which was earlier done outside the ECC box, now even that can be done within the same box. Okay, so that is the whole idea of why S4 HANA is better compared to traditional ECC system. On top of that, if you go to the next line, SAP S4 HANA provides modern and simplified user experience optimized for all devices. So this is nothing but SAP Fiori. So SAP Fiori is providing you better user experience. Okay, so you are able to use simplified screens compared to that older screens that we were using in SAP ECC. And on top of that, these screens can be used on all devices. So you can use it on mobile, you can use it on tab, you can use it on laptop, computer. So it is not necessary to sit in front of computer and laptop and do the transactions. Okay, now I'm not saying that all the transactions which you do on computers and laptops can be done on mobiles and tabs, but at least the basic transactions where you don't need much of data entry. For example, you want to approve something or you want to reject something, or there are some reports like dashboard you want to see. It's a CEO of a company. If he wants to know what is my sales for this month, he don't need to go into SAP system, log in with his user ID and password, and go to the different reports and perform the analysis. What he can do is just open a particular app in his mobile device, and it will show him the complete picture. Okay, so that is something which you can expect using SAP Fiori. So the second last point, it reduces the data footprint of your company by removing the aggregates. I think this one you remember by this slide which we discussed yesterday. Let me take you to this slide. Yes, this one. So you can see the data footprint reduction. Out of 600 GB, you just came to around 42 GB in S4 HANA, right? So do you think there is any benefit of reducing the data? Definitely, right? Just try on your mobile device. Even if you have 6 GB of memory in your mobile, Okay, if you are using entire, let's say 5.5 GB, your mobile device will become slow. And if you remove unwanted items, you just make it maybe 2 GB or 3 GB, automatically it will work fast. Right? So with the reduction in the database size, your speed will perform, like your transactions will perform faster. At the same time, it will also save the cost. So out of 6 GB of memory, if already you consume 5.5 GB, so maybe in another 1 month you need to buy external memory if you want to store the same data. But now if somebody provides you the solution that all your data, which is around 5.5 GB, will get reduced to 2 GB, you don't need to purchase any additional memory, right? So that is again saving the cost of the hardware. And finally, the last point is choice of deployment. So again, if you remember, I told you in SAP ECC, the major problem for the customers who are implementing SAP for the first time, the first thing that they need to do is they need to purchase the hardware. Okay, and hardware was, you all know hardware is very costly when it comes to SAP. So you need multiple servers, you need multiple networking devices, and on top of that, you also need a team of consultants, basis consultants, network consultants, who will be taking care of this hardware. So it is a one-time huge investment for the companies, and that is the reason there were many medium-sized customers who were finding SAP very costly. So although software was not costing them much, but if they consider hardware, networking, the people management, all these things, they were finding it that SAP will be very costly. That's the reason they were going for other cloud vendors like Salesforce, and maybe there are a lot of other companies who were providing the cloud-based service. But now SAP don't wanted to lose those customers. So with cloud option, even small and medium customers can now think of going for SAP S4 HANA. So earlier it was only bigger customers who were implementing SAP ECC system because it was too costly. But now with no hardware cost or less hardware cost, the smaller customers or medium-sized customers can also think of going for SAP S4 HANA. Okay, so any question on this particular slide? Are you finding anything difficult to understand here? I think this is very straightforward. Whatever we discussed yesterday, those all things are put it in one slide. Okay, if not, let's go to the next slide. Now, this picture is showing you how SAP S4 HANA has been evolved. Okay, so you can see this picture is only between 2011 and 2015. Okay, so we need to talk about before 2011 and after 2015 also. So let me tell you this story now. See, we already understood SAP ECC has a lot of challenges. The speed, the user interface. So all the customers who were using SAP ECC system around 2005-6, they were already complaining to SAP that these are the challenges which we are facing. Are you planning to upgrade your system to solve those challenges? So SAP realized that yes, we need to work on the speed, we need to work also on the user interface. So they took this one by one. So the first thing they have done is they tried to find out how can we improvise the speed. So as I told you, if you just go before 2011, SAP was totally dependent on third-party databases. Now when it comes to the speed will be only dependent on the database that we are using. So what SAP has done is SAP said, okay, let's discuss with our third-party vendors and try to understand how we can improvise the speed. So they discussed with Oracle, they discussed with SQL, they discussed with Sybase. Okay, but whatever answers they got, like how they are planning to improvise on the speed, they were not, SAP was not happy with those answers. And that was the time SAP decided that, okay, let's do one thing. Let's try to build up on our own product, which will be using latest of technologies. Okay, and that is where the SAP HANA idea came into the mind. And then in 2006-07, they started to develop this product from scratch. That is SAP HANA. Okay, and finally in 2011, the first official version of SAP HANA was launched. Okay, so SAP HANA only came into picture in 2011. So customers who were already using SAP ECC system on Oracle, Sybase, SQL, they were provided the choice that if they want to improvise the speed, just replace your database with SAP HANA. So those are the customers, I gave you example yesterday, who are using ECC system on HANA database. Okay, even the customers in 2012, 2013, there were a lot of customers who were implementing SAP. So during that time, SAP was providing them the option that if you are implementing SAP, you have a choice whether you want to go for HANA or you want to continue using the traditional databases. Okay, but you can see in 2012, SAP came up with first product on SAP HANA database, that is SAP BW. Then in 2013, SAP came up with SAP Business Suite powered by SAP HANA. This is nothing but SAP ECC system on HANA database. Okay, that's the reason I told you, just remember these different terminologies. SAP Business Suite powered by SAP HANA. It doesn't mean S4 HANA. That for word is important. Powered by SAP HANA and for SAP HANA are two different things. Powered by SAP HANA means SAP ECC system on HANA database. So in 2013, SAP came up with SAP HANA as a database and it was only available on SAP ECC applications. Then again, SAP had a plan to come up with the newer product, and that is exactly, if you see in 2014, SAP came up with SAP Simple Finance powered by SAP HANA. Now, is SAP Simple Finance S4 HANA or not? What do you think? Is Simple Finance and S4 HANA the same thing?
No.
No? Any other answer?
No.
No? What is the difference then?
It is ECC 6 only, but HANA database. Not it is powered by SAP HANA only, not S4 HANA.
Then what is the difference between SAP Business Suite powered by SAP HANA and SAP Simple Finance powered by SAP HANA? So if it is ECC, then this is also ECC on HANA database. So what is the difference in Simple Finance and ECC on HANA?
Single source.
Single source, okay. Yes, single source, correct. But what do you mean by single source? Okay, let me summarize this. See, if you see 2013, in 2013, SAP came up with the same SAP ECC system on HANA database. Okay, so only database is new. Application is completely same. So whatever tables, whatever transactions you were using, same transactions will be used. Only the difference would be in the background you will be using SAP HANA database, right? But what was the future? Like they wanted to simplify the processes also. So here in 2013, they only simplified the speed. But what about the simplified processes? What about the user interface? They also wanted to simplify that. And that is exactly what they have done in 2014. So now, if they want to simplify the processes, there are a lot of modules in SAP. If they want to simplify finance, controlling, SD, PP, APO, EWM, there are a lot of different modules in SAP. So they cannot simplify everything at one go. So they need to prioritize. They need to think which module will be simplified first. What would be the second module? What will be the third module? So what they have done is they identified that finance is the first module that we want to simplify. Okay, and they've simplified the finance module and they named it as SAP Simple Finance. So if you are going for SAP Simple Finance powered by SAP HANA, it is an add-on. I'll talk about what is add-on. Your base system will still remain same, ECC, EHP 7 or EHP 8, but your financial processes will be simplified. It will not make any change to SD, PP and all. They will remain as it is, but financial processes, even AC docket table will also come into the picture if you go for Simple Finance. So Simple Finance means SAP ECC system, okay, which consists of the separate add-on, it will simplify only finance processes, finance and controlling. Okay, so because FI and C are merged together, so we don't need to talk about two components separately. So in short, SAP Simple Finance is a product which will only simplify FI and CO. It will not touch anything in MM, SD, PP and all. Okay, and then in 2015, finally, they simplified MM, SD, PP, all other modules. And instead of calling it as a simple logistics, there are a lot of guys who say there is something called as simple logistics, but there is nothing called as simple logistics. Okay, this is just like we say simple finance, so people are thinking simple logistics also exists. There is nothing called as simple logistics. SAP S4 HANA is the official name of the product, which includes simplified financial processes as well as simplified logistics processes. Okay, but it is not simple logistics. It is the complete product is called as SAP S4 HANA, which has simplified finance as well as simplified logistics processes. Finance processes can be implemented separately. So simple finance, even customer today in 2019 also, if there is a customer who says, I don't care about MMSDPP, I'm okay to work on them as it is, but I want to simplify my financial processes, so he can even today go for SAP Simple Finance. He don't need to go for SAP S4 HANA. Because if he goes for SAP S4 HANA, all the processes, MMSDPP, everything will get changed, will get simplified. Okay, so it is up to the customer whether they want to simplify only financial processes or all the processes. So for only finance processes, he will go for SAP Simple Finance, and for all the processes, they will go for SAP S4 HANA. Okay, so these are just the pointers. What is new in Simple Finance? So you can see instant financial insight, which means you will be getting the reports in real time, no aggregates. We discussed yesterday the repetition of data will not be there. Single source of truth, just now we understood that AC docket table is available even in Simple Finance also. If you go for SAP S4 HANA, you have simplified data model, which means the tables which were available in SD, MM, PP, everywhere, those are, many tables are deleted. You are getting a new user experience in the form of SAP Fiori. And also, if you go for SAP S4 HANA, you are getting the choice of deployment, whether you want to go for cloud or you want to go for on-premise system. Okay, what about after 2015? So in 2015, the first version of SAP S4 HANA came into the market, and that version was called as S4 HANA. What? Which version? The first version on S4 HANA, 1511.
1511.
Yes, 1511 was the first version on S4 HANA. And what do you mean by 1511? What is the meaning of 1511?
15 year 11 is month.
15 is a year and 11 is a month. Correct.
Yes.
So 15 is 2015. It came in 2015 in the month of 11th month. That is November. 1511. So after 1511, again next year, 1610. 16. Again 2016 month October. Again 1709. 2017 9th month, and the latest one which is available today is 1809, which is 2018 9. Now if you ask me what is the difference between 1511, 1610, 1709, 1809, so if you just understand this from 2014 to 2015, in 2014 SAP has already only simplified finance. In 2015 MMSD PP was also simplified. In 2016, WM was also simplified. In 2017, BPC was also simplified. In 2018, maybe APO and all are simplified. So what is happening? More and more modules are getting simplified with each version. If I talk from the financials and controlling point of view, you will not find much of changes. I'm not saying no changes. There are some changes, but 0 to 2%. Okay, so you will not find much of changes between 1610 and 1809. Okay, almost everything is same. If you compare 1610 and 1809, almost all the things are exactly same. Okay, so that is where we are today. We are in 2018. the version we are in 1809, which we are using currently, which is latest in the market, and most of the projects which are already being executed in the market are 1709. Okay, because 1809 was just launched 3 months back, 3 to 4 months back. Okay, so there are only the new customers who will go for SAP S4 HANA, they will go for 1809, but whatever projects are already there from 6 to 8 months, they are already into 1709. Okay, any question here on this slide? No questions? Okay, let's go to the next slide now. So now that you understood what is SAP S4 HANA, the official product name is S4 HANA Enterprise Management. So like our initial product, the last product was called as SAP ECC. Okay, but it was also called as SAP ERP. Right. So similarly, this SAP S4 HANA is called as SAP S4 HANA Enterprise Management. Why it is enterprise management? Because it consists of all the modules that you have in SAP ECC plus advanced features. Okay, so yes. If you see the example now, see earlier, if you compare this picture with this ECC picture, on the center we have SAP ERP, and it is surrounded by CRM, SRM, SCM, PLM. So CRM, SRM, SCM, and PLM were considered advanced modules in SAP ECC. But now this CRM, SRM, SCM, PLM, these are no more considered as advanced modules. They are actually became obsolete. Okay, nowadays nobody wants to go for CRM, SRM. Actually, they want to go for hybrids. They want to go for Ariba. They want to go for success factors. Okay, so these are the things which are required by the customers now, which are being implemented by the customers now. Okay, and that is the reason if you see this SAP S4 HANA, instead of CRM, SRM, APO, EWM, whatever functionalities we were using as a separate box, those functionalities are not being used as a separate box. Instead, the functionalities like Ariba, Success Factor, Field Glass, Hybris, Concur, these are the new generation technologies, and all of them are available on cloud, only cloud. Okay, now if you ask me, then does it mean that CRM, SRM, this is completely gone and nobody is using it? So although if it is available, okay, in SAP S4 HANA, you don't, like, SAP is trying to bring most of the features which are available in CRM, SRM, and all those separate boxes into the main component itself, the central component, that is S4 HANA Enterprise Management. Okay, so normally CRM, SRM, APO, and all these are not required to be activated as a separate box. They can be included in the same box if they are required. Okay, so the scope of S4 HANA Enterprise Management is much bigger compared to the scope of SAP ECC, because CRM, SRM, APO, EWM, BPC, BW, I told you, everything is embedded now within the central component. Okay, so we don't need them surrounded by the central component. Instead, we need the new dimensional modules like Concur, Field Glass, Success Factor, which are surrounded by your digital core. This is called as a digital core. So ECC core is replaced with the digital core or S4 HANA core. Okay, any question? Okay, let's go to the next one. Again, this is something which you must be already knowing, but just a slide which will help you out. So SAP S4 HANA makes the use of these technologies. You can see there are three key enablers. One is SAP HANA as a database. So what is provided by SAP HANA? If you see on the left hand side, OLAP and OLTP merge. I'll talk about what is OLAP and what is OLTP shortly. In-memory computing, which we already discussed, compression, and increase in the speed. So this is something which is provided by SAP HANA database. What is provided by SAP Fiori? If you see the bottom screen, it provides a better user experience, which is You have cross application user experienced, web based, which can be used from all devices, role based and decisive. We will be talking about these things when we will be discussing about SAP Fiori. Then you have third one is real time and simplified processes. Okay, so which means how FICO has been simplified, how the other modules in SAP S4 HANA are simplified. So in short, there are no aggregates and no index tables. Yesterday we discussed like BSIS, BSAS, Faggle Flexi, all those tables are removed. Why? Because they were actually creating the repetition, right? They were unnecessarily increasing the data in the memory. Okay, so those things are not required, and that is the reason you can see the last point, data footprint reduction. So overall memory size from maybe 600 GB, we have seen the example, it is coming only to 42 GB. Okay, so and on the right hand side, these are some of the figures which SAP has provided when they worked on initial projects. So 10 times smaller data footprint. Okay, which means if you are using 1 TB of data, it will come to, let's say, 100 GB of data. 7 times higher throughput. What is throughput? Throughput means output minus input. Now, what is output and what is input? So, can you just tell me, simple, why we need SAP or why we need any software for any particular process? We want to generate more and more reports. Yes. Right? The whole purpose of using this softwares is to get the transparency, what is happening in our organization. How will you get the transparency in the form of reports? And how will you get the reports? Only when you input the data. So outputs is nothing but your reports. But in order to get those output, you need to enter some input. And normally what happens is you are getting few outputs and whole day you are just inputting the data. So you are wasting more time on inputting the data and less time on getting the reports. But now, because of SAP Fiori, the amount of time required to input the data will go down, and amount of time you will be accessing the reports will go up. Why? Because the reports are available on mobile. That is also real time. So instead of looking at the reports only monthly or weekly, you can see the reports multiple times in a day. Right? So that is the reason 7 times higher throughput. 1800 times faster analytics and reporting. We already discussed this yesterday. And 4 times less process steps. So whenever you do any transaction, let's say whenever you are trying to create a vendor invoice, let's say you need to enter the information in the header, then you need to enter the information in the lines. Okay, so let's say there are 4 sections that you need to maintain. Now with SAP Fiori, they simplified the screen. So instead of entering 4 different sections, in one section itself, you enter the data. So the 4 steps that you were performing to execute the data, enter the data, now it will come to 1 step. Okay, this is again just an example. So in short, less time to execute the process. Okay, so these are key enablers of SAP S4 HANA. Coming to SAP HANA, these slides we already discussed yesterday. Okay, so why traditional databases were slow, and we discussed what is row based versus column based. We discussed this slide again and again. Complex data model, so there were a lot of tables, index tables, aggregate tables, which are no more required, and you can see this is an example which I took from the logistics, but simple same example I can give you for finance also, maybe when we will go through the processes. Okay, so in short, lot of tables which were unnecessarily storing the same data, repetition, those are removed and only main tables are kept. So let's go to the next one. SAP HANA, we understood, is in-memory computing. It stores the data in the RAM, simplified data model, removed redundancy, less data footprint. It stores the data in row as well as column. And finally, 1800 times faster processing. So let's go to the next one. Now, again in this slide, there are 1 or 2 things which you already know, but there are 2 new things which will be also very important. So how or why SAP HANA is faster? So we already know it because it is in memory. It stores the data in RAM. And if you are storing the data in the RAM, automatically the time required to process the data will come down. Second is row versus column database. We discussed that column-based database allows you to reduce the number of tables, and also it reduces the data footprint because the data is stored in the compressed form. The next 2 points we have not discussed. Massively parallel processing. What do you mean by massively parallel processing? So if you just take an example, what I told you, why SAP has decided to come up with a completely new database on their own, because they realized that the traditional database vendors like Oracle, SQL, they are still using the architecture which was there around 30 years old. So around 30 years old, they never think of storing the data in RAM. Why? Because RAM was very costly. And there was a huge difference between RAM price and ROM price. Okay, but nowadays, even a small mobile device is having a good amount of RAM. Okay, so what is happening? The new technologies are there, and SAP wanted to make the use of this latest technological advantages which are available. So massively parallel processing, this means, if you take a simple example, if you just go 10 years back, which processor we were using in our laptop? Pentium 1, Pentium 2, something, right? P1, P2, P3, something. Then came Intel, then came Intel Duo, then i3, i4, i5, i6, i7, i8. I think the i8 is the latest one, right? So what is happening? What do you mean by, what is the difference between i6 and i8? Multiple processors, right? So definitely, if you buy a laptop with i5 and compare it with i8, it will definitely be faster. Why? Because multiple processes can be performed in parallel. It is just like, if I give you the example, if you wanted to paint the building of 6 floors, okay, and you are giving this task to a single person, and he is taking 1 day to paint 1 floor, he will take 6 days to complete that task. So this is kind of one processor, one person is doing that task. But if I deploy 6 different persons, the task can be completed in 1 day. So this is like I'm deploying 6 different processors. So SAP is using the hardware which is very advanced. Multiple processors which are working simultaneously to complete the task. Okay, so that is something called as massively parallel processing. Parallel processing means multiple processes are happening at the same time. It is not sequential, it is parallel. Okay, so you can see linear performance scaling making sophisticated no, sorry, that is not the case. Just give me a minute. Yeah, next one is a calculation engine. Now, what is a calculation engine? For this one, I have to show you something in Excel. Just to explain you what is calculation engine. Let me just open the Excel file. Okay. So, can you tell me table Fagel Flex T? You all know what is table Fagel Flex T? What is the purpose of Fagel Flex T? Why do we need this table? Anyone?
It's an aggregate table.
Okay, it's the aggregate table. What is the purpose of aggregate table in SAP? Why do we need aggregate tables? These are also called as totals table, aggregate or totals table. What is the purpose of aggregate tables and totals tables in SAP? Why do we need them?
Many times you don't need the line item details to be provided. At that time, you need only the totals value. So system don't need to go into the details and sum the line items to provide a total. That's why we have a total and the line items table separately to just to faster performance.
Exactly, perfect answer. So let's say we have this Fagel Flexa table. What is the difference between Fagel Flexa and Fagel Flex T? Fagel Flexa table is line item table. So all the lines, let's say there is account number 1001. This is my account, and this is my transaction. amount. So let's say I made some, let's say my bank account 1001, and if I make some payments, let's say this will be minus 1000. If I receive some payments, it will be plus 2000. If I make another payment, let's say for 3000, it will be minus 3000. So let's say I keep on doing these transactions. Okay, so on day-to-day basis, we are doing lot of transactions, lot of payments, lot of invoices, lot of receipts, right? So let's say like this, there are thousands of transactions for this single GL, which is bank account. Now, if I want to know what is the total amount, what is the total balance in this GL account, I can simply go here and perform the calculation, and it shows me the total balance is 6000. Okay, but how many lines are there? These are only 7 lines. In real-time scenario, in any one GL account, if you go and see in Figure Flexa table, you will find millions and billions of records. Right? If you just go to Figure Flexa for a particular company code, and if you try to see for this GL account how many lines are there, there will be millions and billions of records. So, if you want to know what is the total amount available, if you don't have this Figure Flexi table, what it has to do, it has to go for Figure Flexa. It has to find out all those billions of records, and then it has to perform the calculation to tell you how much is the total balance, right? And in order to perform that calculation for billions of records, system will take a lot of time. And that is the reason SAP said, okay, instead of that, let's create a table where it will always store whatever is the total balance. So this is 6000. So next time when you go for again this GL account, and let's say you will do minus 1000, it will automatically come here and it will make it as 5000. So which means whenever you want to generate a report, it will not go here and perform the calculation, it will directly go here and it will tell you the balance is 5000. So this was the main purpose of aggregate and total statement, to avoid making these calculations, because if it performs this calculation, the system will be too slow. Now, why it was a problem? Why, even if I have millions of records, can't I perform the calculation? Because my databases were Oracle, SQL, and they were taking a lot of time to perform this calculation, SAP has decided to come up with these aggregate tables. But now SAP is saying that if you are using SAP HANA database, any number of records, we have a very powerful calculation engine, which will automatically perform all these calculations in real time. So no need of aggregates. In SAP, there are a lot of aggregate tables which were used earlier. Those are all removed now. Why? Because SAP HANA has a very powerful calculation engine, and we don't need to store this data separately. It will be calculated whenever you perform the report. So again, what you are achieving out of it, you are achieving the data footprint. Unnecessary data was getting stored. There were unnecessary n number of tables which were just holding the data which is already there in some other form. Right? So that is the reason Figure Flexi and other many different tables which are aggregate and totals tables are no more available in SAP S4 HANA. Okay, so this is only possible because of the very powerful calculation engine of SAP HANA. Clear on this? Any question? No questions? Let's go further. So this is again just to explain what we already discussed regarding embedded BW. So in SAP ECC, you can see we had a separate transactional system. So this is your ECC system. We were doing the transactions here, and every maybe day, weekly or monthly, through this ETL, we discussed what is ETL yesterday: extraction, transform, and load. So through this ETL tool, we were moving the data from ECC to the BW system, right? So what is the problem here? The problem was we had 3 different copies of data. We need 3 different servers. Okay, unnecessarily data latency. Same data again and again you are moving from here and there, right? So poor innovation leading to waste of time. But now when we are talking about SAP HANA database, we are saying that even this BW is part of your main component. Okay, so you can eliminate the unnecessary complexity and latency, less hardware to manage, okay, and accelerate through innovation, simplification, and elimination. So what exactly this means? This is in other terms, we can call it as earlier what was happening is you were doing the transactions here and you were doing the reportings here. So this was called as your OLTP system. And this was called as your OLAP system. What do you mean by OLTP and OLAP? I think if you gone through the in your college time when you were understanding the database concepts, these terms were very common: OLTP and OLAP. OLTP means online transaction processing, which means the system which allows you to perform the transactions. And OLAP means the system which allows you to do the reporting. So in traditional ECC system, you have two different systems, one for reporting, second for transactions. But now with S4 HANA or SAP HANA database, your OLTP has merged with OLAP. So you have one common system where you are doing the transactions and also performing your reports. Okay, so that is something you can see this line, the common database approach for online transaction processing and online analytical processing using an in-memory column-based database. Okay, so let's take a break for 5 minutes. I realized yesterday there were a lot of guys who were getting bored. Just give me 5 minutes. We will start in exactly 5 minutes. So around 18:32, we will come back. Hello, are you all back? Yes, say yes, or just write on the chat screen.
Yeah, I'm back.
Sandeep, Varun, Purva, Mahesh, are you there?
Yes,
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 sir.
Gaurav.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so let's go to the next slide now. Any questions till now before I go to the next one?
Could you just explain the OLAP and OLTP once again, please?
Yes. See, OLTP is online transaction processing, which means, see, what was happening in SAP ECC, your SAP ECC box, it was mainly for performing the transactions. All your reportings, like I'm not saying the normal regular reportings, I'm talking about the reportings that senior management wants to see. Okay, so in SAP ECC, it was not possible to generate the graphical reports like pie chart and bar charts. So either the customer was using BW tool, okay, where they were able to display those reports in those graphical formats, or maybe the customers who were not using BW, the accountants, they were facing the data from ECC and in Excel they were creating those reports, right? So
It's a time consuming.
Yes, it's a time consuming and outdated. Okay, second thing is outdated reports, and that too, you have two different systems, one for transaction processing, second for reporting. So now with this concept of SAP HANA, what they are saying is they have embedded BW, which means your graphical reports, which can be shown to your management, top management, you don't need to do any additional activity. It will be automatically available in real time, and that too in the same system. So your OLTP is transaction processing and your reporting is available in one single platform rather than two different components. Is it okay, Amit? You understood?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay, then let's go to the next one. SAP Fiori, I don't need. We need to talk about now. We have a separate session for this. So let me just ignore these topics. We will talk about this in detail. Yes, we can talk about deployment options now. So again and again, we discussed that in SAP ECC, the hardware was a huge problem. So customer, whoever wants to go for SAP ECC system, they have to purchase the hardware first. And for smaller customers, it was always a challenge because hardware costs were huge and it was one-time investment. Okay, so the customers, medium or small customers, they were not able to implement SAP because they were finding this hardware to be very expensive and they were going for some other vendors in terms of their ERP. So SAP was losing the business because SAP was not providing the cloud solution at that time. But now with SAP S4 HANA, SAP came up with the deployment options in terms of on-premise and on-cloud. What do you mean by on-premise? On-premise means exactly what we are doing today. On-premise means customer is buying the hardware, he is buying the software, and he is the owner of hardware and software. Okay, so he don't need to be dependent on anybody else. He can decide what he wants to do with the system. Okay, there was no dependency. But when it comes to cloud, cloud is something where the hardware is not yours. Okay, you are getting the hardware from some third party. And even when we are talking about SAP S4 HANA Cloud, even the software that you are using, that is also available only for a particular time frame. So let's take a simple example. Let's take a practical example. There is a customer who is interested in implementing SAP, okay, and he decided to go with SAP S4 HANA. But the thing is, he wants to compare the two options, whether he should go for on-premise or he should go for on-cloud. So in this case, if he is looking for the help from us, the consultants, whether I should go for cloud or I should go for on-premise, the first thing that we will ask him is, does it has that much budget to go for on-premise. Okay, if he has that much budget, if he has the capability to purchase the hardware, then definitely there is nothing like the on-premise. Okay. On the other hand, if there is no budget, then there is no question of thinking. It is only cloud option which is available, right? So in this case, if I whatever example I gave, it looks like on-premise is a boss, right? On-premise is something which is good. But there is one drawback of on-premise compared to cloud. When you are going for cloud, since SAP is providing you software and it is also providing you hardware, the software that you will be using will be always the latest one. So just to give you an example, let's say you are implementing SAP today. So the latest version is available is 1809. Now after 3 months or 6 months, if SAP comes up with another latest version, if you are using on-premise, it is up to you whether you want to upgrade to the latest version or not. But if it is cloud, by default, you will be using the latest version. Okay, so you will be always updated if you are using the cloud version without any additional cost. So if you are going for 1809 today and tomorrow SAP comes up with 1902, you again need to invest time, effort, amount in upgrading your system. But if you are going for cloud, it is SAP's responsibility to upgrade the system to the latest one. You will not be charged anything separately for that. Okay, so that is one of the benefit of cloud. So on-premise allows you to have a complete control. What you want, what do you don't want, whatever Z codes, custom codes you want to create, that you can create on premise. On cloud is something which is available for cheaper compared to on premise, at least initially. See, over the period of time, if you compare for 10 years, it may happen that cloud is more costly. Okay, again, if you just take an example, this on-premise is like owning your own apartment. You can decide what things you want to change from here to there. You can change even the entire civil work within your home. But cloud is like a rented apartment. Okay, so you are just paying the rent and you are residing. You don't have any control. Okay, it depends upon if you want to, let's say, just an example, if you want to paint a house every year, okay, if it is on premise, it will be on your cost. But if you want to paint a house where you are renting, in that case, it will be up to the owner because he is responsible for providing you the clean house every year. Okay, so this is just an example. So you can definitely save cost if you go for cloud, but you will lose the control. You cannot create any Z objects. There are a lot of restrictions. So in short, the first question that I told you is whether there is a budget or not. If there is a budget, definitely most of the customers will go for on-premise because we all understand we are all coming from SAP background. There are no customers in SAP who are not using Z codes. Okay, so if there is a lot of Z required, if there are a lot of customizations required, you cannot be able to do that in the cloud solution. In that case, you need on-premise. Okay, so that is the basic difference between on-premise and cloud. So let's go through these wordings now. If you see this SAP S4 HANA on-premise, this is kind of traditional one. As I told you, it is same as what we are using today. So traditional licensing with customer control of deployment and maintenance. Customer can decide what I want, what I don't want. So SAP S4 HANA already offers a business scope that is similar in terms of coverage, functionality, industries, languages to current SAP businesses, which means SAP S4 HANA on-premise edition already provides all those functions which were available in SAP ECC, plus advanced features. So all those functionalities, industry-specific solutions, languages, everything is available similar to SAP ECC system. But when it comes to SAP S4 HANA Cloud Edition, it is subscription licensing with deployment in the private cloud maintained by SAP. So hardware, software, everything is maintained by SAP. And this cloud version again comes in 3 different editions. The first edition is SAP S4 HANA Cloud Project Services, second is Marketing Edition, and third is Cloud Enterprise Edition. So what are these three? Name itself says Project Services Edition. So if you go for this version or this edition of SAP S4 HANA Cloud, you will be only getting the modules related to project-based organizations. If you go for Marketing Edition, you will be only getting the modules which are relevant for marketing-related organizations. But if you want to go for all modules, then you have to go for Cloud Enterprise Edition. Okay. Now, why these options are provided? Because obviously Cloud Enterprise Edition will be costly compared to this two. Okay,
Just
so
one thing.
yeah,
This project edition means this is specific for projects.
project-related organizations.
Like my project is 3 to 5 years for.
No. Project Services Edition means, okay, the question is, what exactly is Project Services Edition? So there are a lot of project-based organizations. For example, construction companies.
Okay.
They are not manufacturing. They are not maybe selling that much, like creating the sales orders and all. They will be doing most of their activities in project system module of SAP. So only those modules which are related to project services will be provided in this edition. If you go to Marketing Edition, it will be more of SD, CRM, Hybris. Those modules will be provided in Cloud Marketing Edition. But if you go for Cloud Enterprise Edition, it will include all the modules. So definitely the cost of this Cloud Enterprise Edition will be much more compared to Project Service and Marketing Editions. And that is the reason SAP is selling this, because customers who don't want complete package, at least they can go with this and SAP can actually convert them as a clients rather than just giving one option, and if it is too costly for others, they will not be able to enjoy SAP S4 HANA. Right? So SAP S4 HANA Cloud Edition comes in Cloud Edition comes into three editions: one for project service, second for marketing, and third one for enterprise edition. Now, maybe going forward, or maybe even today also, they might have come with even different editions, because these were the initial two, project service and marketing. They may come with manufacturing also, they come with some other editions also, but the full functionality is only available in Cloud Enterprise Edition. Okay, now we will see the differences between the two in more detail. So, on-premise versus on-cloud. If you see the licensing model, I'm going point by point. Licensing model in case of SAP S4 HANA on-premise, it is traditional licensing. What do you mean by traditional licensing? Same as SAP ECC. So whatever licensing was followed earlier, same licensing. If you go for SAP S4 HANA Cloud Edition, it is subscription licensing. So like rental, every quarterly, every yearly, you need to pay the subscription amount. Coming to the second point, infrastructure and maintenance. The customer is in control of deployment and maintenance with dedicated own IT staff. So customers' own IT staff can decide what they want to maintain, how they want to deploy. Everything is in control of a customer. But in case of cloud, SAP provides the system and is responsible for system maintenance. So one thing is good here, that you don't need your dedicated IT staff where you can save a lot of money, but at the same time you don't have any control, because SAP will decide whether it should be upgraded or not, the maintenance should be carried out or not. Coming to the third point, speed of innovation. As I told you, what is innovation? Every time SAP is coming up with new versions. So in case of on-premise, again, customer will decide whether the innovation is required or not. Customer will decide whether they want to go for the new version or not. If they go for new version, again, they have to have some downtimes. They have to dedicate a team, the effort, the amount, okay, which is cost for the customers. But if it is on cloud, you can see cloud customers participate automatically on quarterly innovation upgrades. Every quarterly, SAP cloud customers will be getting the latest software without paying any additional cost. Implementation approach, fourth point, highly individual requirement regarding business processes and customizations, which means customer can decide whether they want to implement the standard business processes or customizations. So how much Z they want to incorporate, that is up to the customer. But if you go for cloud, you have to use predefined best practices configuration with limited specialization. So whatever is available for all is available for you. Okay, you cannot make your own customizing changes. Now, why do you think these are the restrictions in cloud? Because this cloud server is normally shared by multiple clients. Okay, and if SAP allows you to create Z codes, if SAP allows you to play with the standard processes, that will impact other customers also. Okay, and that is the reason in cloud edition you don't get much control, because if you make some changes and it impacts other customers, then definitely it is a big loss to SAP. Nobody will go for cloud then. Coming to the functional scope, we just now discussed that the functional scope of SAP on-premise is similar to the ERP scope with advanced features like success factors, field glass, Hybris, Ariba. Okay, all these are the functional scope of SAP S4 HANA on-premise. Similarly, in SAP S4 HANA Cloud, you will not find all the functions which are available on-premise, because Cloud Edition is a subset of on-premise. Okay, so whatever functions are available in on-premise, it is not necessary that those functions are available on cloud. Okay, so it is subset. Coming to the last one, custom code. So whether custom codes are allowed or not. So in case of on-premise, full traditional ABAP extensibility to core modification, which means full ABAP is available to you. You decide whatever reports you want to create, you change forms, you create bodies, buppies, whatever you want. But in case of cloud, in-app extensibility with limited ABAP. Okay, so little bit of ABAP is provided now. Earlier, even that was not provided. Okay, and that was only possible with this additional component called as HANA Cloud Platform, which is little bit technical, but just understand this concept that in cloud, there are not much of customizations allowed. One more thing, the difference between on-premise and cloud. In case of on-premise, what are the different versions and at what intervals the versions are coming? In case of SAP S4 HANA, we just now discussed what are the different versions available?
15,
15, 11,
16,
yes, 15, 11, 16, 10. So what is happening? Every year, one new version, right? But in case of cloud, new version is available every quarter, every 3 months. Every 3 months, there is a new version on cloud. Okay, so you can see in between two versions of on-premise, there can be multiple cloud versions. Normally it is 3. So between 15.11 and 16.10, you will find 4 versions of cloud. Okay, so every quarterly, in case of cloud, you will find a new version. Okay, let me show you this particular thing. Maybe I'll complete this and then I'll show you. So you can see this is on-premise, this one, and this is on cloud. So this is yearly innovation cycle and this is quarterly innovation cycle. Okay, these are SAP portals. Okay, so maybe if I try to open this. These are SAP help portals, which will give you the basic information of which on-premises versions are available and which on-cloud versions are available. Okay, so you can see this is for on-premise. In case of on-premise, we have 15.11, we have 16.10, we have 17.09, and we have 18.09. Now the question is, what are these then? 15.11, FPS 01, FPS 02. So in between two yearly versions, if there are any corrections, service pack, right? So why there is a service pack? If there are any corrections. So for example, when SAP came out with 1511, when customers started implementing, they found out some issues, and SAP has made those corrections, and they said, okay, now go with this version. So these are just the simplifications and corrections. These are not the different versions altogether. Versions are this one: 1511, 1610, 1709, and 1809. Okay, but same thing if you try for cloud. If you go to this site, which is for cloud, it's taking some time. Maybe otherwise. SAP S4 HANA Cloud Help. Yes, let's go through this. Okay, so here you can see it is only showing you last 3 versions every 3 months: 1805, 1808, 1811. Now, why it is not showing previous versions? Because in case of on-premise, it is possible that the customer is using 1511 till now. But in case of on cloud, all the customers are already upgraded to the latest one. So why you need the documentation of older ones? Right? Because there is no option here. Right? So every quarterly, new versions are coming in case of S4 HANA Cloud. But in case of S4 HANA on-premise, the versions are available every year. Okay, so I'll tell you which of the information here in this section, in this help document, which are the important documents that you should refer, but not now. We will come back to this topic later on. So I will share the slides also with you today so that you can also go through slides and ask questions if you have.
Gaurav,
Okay,
this is
and
Amit
now,
here. I have one question. Like you mentioned that these versions are available for cloud, whether these versions are also available for on-premise customers. I mean, if they want, can they go for this such upgrades?
no. On-premise is completely independent of on-cloud. So the versions which are available for on-premise are only available for on-premise, and the versions which are available for cloud are only available for cloud.
Okay.
Okay. So maybe the last topic for today is adoption options. Okay, we discussed about deployment options. What are deployment options? Cloud or on-premise. Now, adoption option means, let's say now, till now, whatever we have discussed, you explained all these things to the customer, and customer said, yes, perfect, I like the product. I want to go ahead with S4 HANA. Now, in which, like how exactly he will go ahead with S4 HANA? So there are different scenarios. One scenario is customer is not using SAP at all. Okay, maybe he is using some third-party ERP or maybe Tally or something, and he want to go for S4 HANA. So he will be definitely going for new implementation. Okay, that is called as new implementation. Other customer, maybe he is already using SAP from last 10 years. He is using SAP ECC today, and now he wants to go for S4 HANA. So for him, it will not be the new implementation. It will be actually upgradation or conversion. It is called as system conversion. And there is third kind of project, which is called as landscape transformation. What do you mean by landscape transformation? Landscape transformation means if you have multiple SAP systems. Have you seen this kind of situation where one customer is using different SAP systems? Okay, normally in India, it's very rare scenario, but if you go outside, there are a lot of companies who are using that. So they have a different system. Let's say a global company, they have thousands of company codes. Okay, so they are not able to manage everything in one system. So they have divided their US system separately, Germany system separately. So now, if they want to go for S4 HANA, it will take years to upgrade all the systems independently to S4 HANA. So what they are doing is they are saying, okay, we will continue using our old systems, but in real time, whatever data we enter in our current system, that should go to S4 HANA system so that the consolidated report is available in S4 HANA system. So that is called as landscape transformation, and a very important topic related to landscape transformation is central finance. Central finance is just an example of landscape transformation. Okay, so we'll talk about central finance also in one of the sessions, but just now let's talk about these three scenarios in detail. So you can see these are the three adoption options. First, see the last one. Last one is new implementation. Okay, so where customer is not using SAP system at all and they want to go for SAP S4 HANA. So they have the option whether they want to go for on-premise or they want to go for cloud. Okay. Now consider the first scenario, system conversion. In this case, customer is already using SAP system and now he wants to go for S4 HANA. So he will go for system conversion. You can see the example, complete conversion of existing SAP Business Suite system to SAP S4 HANA system. Okay, so this is called as system conversion, where you are moving from ERP to S4 HANA. And the third project you can see in between, in the middle, is landscape transformation, where you can see customer is already using multiple SAP or non-SAP systems, and now they want to consolidate. See the example. Consolidation of current regional SAP Business Suite landscapes into one global SAP S4 HANA system. Okay, so in case of new implementation, customer will discard their current system and they will start using the new system. In case of system conversion, the current system will be upgraded. Okay, so there is no question of discarding, it will be upgraded to the latest version. But in case of landscape transformation, both the source system as well as target system will be used in parallel. So you will be doing your transactions here in your old SAP ECC systems, and in real time the data through iDocs or through SLT replication, data will move to another system. So your transactions are done here, but your reportings will be done here. And this is just this is not something which will go for years. This is just a temporary solution till the time all the systems are upgraded to S4 HANA. Okay, so central finance exactly does that. Central finance means this system is central finance system, which is picking the data from different systems in real time and showing the reports here. Okay, so one slide on each. What is system conversion? System conversion means you are already using SAP ECC system, which is SAP Business Suite, which is running on old SAP GUI. Okay, so normal SAP GUI, the core system is SAP ERP core, and you might be already using SAP HANA database, or you are using any other database. And you now want to migrate to SAP S4 HANA, which uses only SAP HANA database. It uses SAP S4 HANA core, and from GUI perspective, it uses SAP Fiori, but still old GUI is also available. Okay, so either old GUI or SAP Fiori, you want to move from here to here. SAP has provided the tools called as SUM with DMO. We'll talk about this in detail. So this tool will be required to convert your existing system to S4 HANA system. Okay, so this is the technical tool which Basis will use to convert this system to S4 HANA system. Coming to the second one, which is called as landscape transformation. What is happening in the landscape transformation? You have two different SAP systems. Let's say one for US, second for Europe. Okay, and whatever transactions you do in Europe as well as US, in real time, those will come into this central system for reporting. Okay, so you are doing the transactions here and you are getting the reports here. And on addition to this, you can also have third-party system, not necessarily SAP. So from, let's say you are using SAP in US, SAP in Europe, and let's say in Asia you are using Oracle apps. So not only you are moving the data in real time from SAP systems, but you can also move the data from third-party system using this landscape transformation option. Okay, so this is your central finance system, which is picking the data from multiple different sources in real time. And the last one is new implementation, which is like you currently have the legacy system. Legacy system can be any system, SAP, non-SAP. Why I'm saying SAP? So there are a lot of customers who are re-implementing. They already are using SAP, but they don't want to upgrade. They want to start from scratch. So for them, SAP is also the legacy system, right? So new customers or maybe already old customers, they want to perform everything from scratch. So they will treat this project as a new implementation project. Okay, so you are moving your legacy system to SAP S4 HANA system. Okay, so I think we should stop here. There is too much of theory we already discussed. Any questions till now? Please ask questions. If you have any questions, if you don't clarify now, going forward, it will be difficult.
I think nowadays lots of companies are moving to the central finance because they are currently they're using SAP as an old system, as a legacy system, and they also want to utilize the HANA services. So, what do you think that what is the trend currently in the market?
No, definitely. See, Amit, this central finance system is only recommended for the customers who already have multiple systems in place. So if you just take an example, a company where there is only one SAP system is used, then there is no question of central finance. So only very big companies where they have different SAP systems in place, and in order to consolidate, it will take them years. So they are going for central finance. So again, if you ask me the percentage of central finance projects would be around 2 to 5%. And mostly this central finance projects are happening for US and yeah, I think even Europe is not that much projects. US, there are a lot of central finance projects. The reason is most of the companies, they have the headquarters in US. Okay, so only those big companies where there are multiple SAP systems which are being used currently, they are going for central finance. So in India, even in Asia, or maybe even if you ask me in Europe, I have not seen much of projects, just one or two projects which I heard are working on central finance. But in US, yes, definitely there are a lot of projects on central finance.
Yeah, got it. But again, there is a big challenge for any company who are using SAP for last say 20 years, using different generations of SAP, and now HANA is there. So it's where now the system, the current system is so customized. It is very difficult for them to close all the customizations and move directly to HANA. You know, their end users are so customized, and they may not be so open to accept new challenges, new learnings of HANA. I think that may be a bottleneck in the acceptance from the customer perspective.
Yes, definitely. So I'll share one example on this also. But before I share that example, let me tell you one more thing. That is the reason where you need to decide between new implementation or system conversion. If a customer is already using SAP and they now want to upgrade to S4 HANA, there are two options. They can go for new implementation from scratch, or they can go for system conversion. In case of new implementation, yes, all their custom codes have to be rewritten. Okay, so whatever they have done till now, they have to again start from scratch. But if they are going for system conversion, even most of their custom codes will work as it is. If they are performing the upgradation, most of the custom codes, most of the processes they were using, only around 20-30% change, but otherwise everything will work as it is. Okay, maybe in the simplified, in the faster way. Okay, so just to answer your question, that challenge is definitely there to convince to the customers and their users that we are going for better, but in terms of the reportings and all customizations, whatever you have done in your ECC system, if you go for system conversion, those customizations, those Z codes, those forms will definitely work. Most of them. I'm not saying all, I'll also tell you how to check how many work, how many will not work. But most of them, let's say around 60% of them will definitely work in the new system also. Okay,
Yeah, you're
so
right.
system conversion is for those customers who don't want to lose their Z codes. And new implementation is for those customers who are not happy with their current system. They anyways want to start from scratch. Okay, Amit?
Yes, you're right. So this transformation would be temporary, or they can continue this for long.
Which one? Landscape transformation.
So where they are using the existing custom codes as well as they are using the HANA features. So they can continue for long like this.
You are talking about this scenario, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, in this scenario, this is temporary because till the time you upgrade all the systems to S4 HANA, you will be using this option. But once all the systems are connected to S4 HANA, or maybe a single system is taking care of all the systems, then you don't need any real-time replication here. So this will be discarded later on.
I think it's used both ways, right? Gaurav, this VAS here. Um, One of the things that I'm seeing a lot in US is that they're using, SLT, System Landscape Transformation, with S4 HANA Finance as a strategy to move everything to S4 HANA. But I think as a first step, right, what they want to do is just have one of these systems converted to S4 HANA and then start replicating all the other systems, transactions to that system, and then on later stage they can actually remove all these redundant systems and then start living with one system, right? That is one of the strategy. And the other one could be that if their system is, if the landscape is not that complex, they completely move everything into just one single system. It's kind of one of the strategies that they follow, and most of the times I think it is temporary. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So see, just to add your point was you are completely correct. So again, in that case, they need to decide between this and this. Okay, so the example that you gave, let's say if I go to this slide, see if a customer has lot of different systems, you can see these are 2 systems here and 3 systems here. So customer has to decide whether they should go with this approach where they discontinue all the systems at one go initially itself and start using only one single system. But if their current landscape is too complicated and it will take a lot of time to discontinue and go for one, only in that case they will temporarily go for the central finance option, where they will continue to use their current systems and in real time they will replicate the data here to generate their reports. But at one fine day when maybe all the systems are already upgraded to this, they will stop or they will discontinue using the old systems. Right, Was?
Yeah, that's correct, Gaurav. Yeah, because it cannot be it cannot be like a final solution because you're generally like you're kind of 100% replicating whatever your transactions are posted in the source system. So you cannot live with that forever. Like it's more like most of the time it's a temporary solution. Maybe for a year or two they want to run it with it, and then eventually they'll sunset all the systems one by one. It's like a step by step, things that they want to do.
Exactly. So even rather than simplification, it will add more complicated if it is for many years. So this is just a temporary setup. Yes. Okay. Was I think is working in US on central finance, or at least he's. Sorry, Was. Can you just tell you are working on the proposal, right?
Yeah, I'm working on a few projects here. We are actually, responding to, RFPs with the central finance in there. So it's when we kind of put the strategies at different roadmaps that we can actually go to HANA Finance. For some of the clients, they're more interested in S4 central finance as a first step, but eventually they wanted to move 100% to HANA, S4 HANA Finance. So they don't want to immediately jump like into S4 HANA Finance on day one. So it's just like an intermediate approach we are suggesting them, and they are absolutely fine with that too. So
Right. Okay. Any other questions? This was a good discussion. This could be the kind of discussion that we have. Then only we will be able to remember all these topics.
So, Gaurav, are you gonna share this PPT?
Yes, Amit, I will immediately share this PPT with you in another half an hour.
Thank you.
Yeah, Gaurav, Sandeep here.
Yes, Amit.
Yes. So, Gaurav, why it is called Central Finance? So, is it only for the financial module or overall?